There's a lot of accessories available for your Jeep that we sometimes call game-changing. This one is life-changing. Okay, so maybe life-changing is a little bit of an exaggeration, but if you have a JK, a JL, or a JT Gladiator, and you have a roof rack and you use it for anything at all, then you definitely want these. This is the Metalcloak Pro Step, and we're gonna go through both a review and an install today. Now, I was first introduced to these steps a few years ago when they were the Kargo Master Safari hinge steps. Metalcloak bought the Kargo Master Safari line recently, and so they've replaced it with these, and we'll go over some of the design changes they made that are really smart. I have the original Kargo Master Safari on my Jeep. I got them a couple years ago when I was first introduced to the Van Stralen family, Epic Family Road Trip. If you're not following them, give them a follow for sure. They had just gotten back from New Zealand. They rolled up next to us on the beach in the Pacific Northwest, and I got to look over their Jeep. It was right after I bought mine, so I was looking at every single accessory, and I caught my eye on those steps, and I knew that I had to have those. What comes in the box when you get the Metalcloak Pro Step? Well, first, of course, you get the hinge step itself. This is where you put your foot. You get the brackets that attach it to your door where your hinges are. And this is actually where Metalcloak improved the design. We'll show it during the install a little bit more, but it's now a two-piece that attaches to your door hinge. And this is a big improvement over the Kargo Master Safari ones, which were a one-piece, because now that they're two-piece, you don't have to unbolt the top and the bottom hinges at the same time. On the Kargo Master Safari, when you did the install and you unbolted both of them, there would be a tendency for the door to shift some and get just a little bit off-centered and misaligned so that it didn't shut as cleanly as it used to anymore. You also get these spacers. Now, this is really important that when you order these, that you order the right spacers. It's a separate spacer for the JK and JKUs than there are for the JL, JLU, and the JT Gladiator. You also get these nylon bushings, which is what allows the hinge step to hinge up and down. They are variable tension, which you have these precision bolts so that you can adjust how much tension and force it requires to fold the steps up and down. And of course, you get all of the rest of the hardware to install the door steps. We can't forget, you get a little bottle of silver anti-seize. Since it's all stainless steel parts, you want to always use the anti-seize. Otherwise, you can end up with what's called galling or cold welding. Whatever term you use for it, it means that you're not getting that bolt off again. So make sure you use the silver anti-seize. It doesn't take very much, and it comes with it, so you might as well. Now, what tools are you going to need? You're going to need a 5mm Allen. I like to use this particular one for hand tightening, a 7/32 hex driver, and a Torx T50, some type of socket wrench, a 9/16 wrench, and if you've got a little stubby like this one, it's going to make things easier for you as well. 3/16 Allen, 1/2-inch wrench, or a 1/2-inch socket. I like the ratcheting wrench in this particular install because of where I'm using it. I just have more room and it's easier. You're also going to want a large socket wrench. You might even need a breaker bar just so that you can get the original factory bolts off of the hinges. I also recommend using a torque wrench when you're doing your final tightening of everything. We're working with pretty low torque ranges here, and it's easy to over torque these. You don't want to strip out any screw heads or anything, so a torque wrench is highly recommended. Now, if you are going to use a power tool, you don't want to use it for tightening anything, but it is okay to use something like this to take off those original factory hinge bolts once you get them broken if you want. And that's what I do, just saves a little time. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so our first step is going to be to install the hinge step onto the bracket itself. We'll use our nylon bushings. I find it's easiest to do the outside first, and then get your hinge step in place. Then after that's in place, another nylon bushing goes in on the inside, and then one of our bolts. Then on the inside, we'll place one of the washers. And this is going to be like a little jungle gym for your fingers here. And then a nut. It can help if you can get your finger on top of it there like that. And then tighten it in. And we'll leave that loose for now, and we'll get the other one on. Now it's really loose, so what we want to do now is to tighten those up. We're going to use our stubby little 9/16 wrench. And so while we hold that wrench in place, we'll use our 7/32 wrench. We just want this snug. You'll notice as soon as you snug them down that it's really tight. It's easy to snug it too much. You want this to have require some force to be able to pull the step down. You don't want them just falling down easily, but you want it to be convenient to use. So you don't want to make them too tight so that you have to use a lot of force just to get the step down. I've already installed the other pair on the other side, so here we're going to show on the driver's side door. So the first thing we're going to do is use our T50, use our Torx bit, and we are going to break these bolts. Just for speed, I'm going to use a power tool to take them the rest of the way out. Next, we'll take the bolts for the brackets, and remember, since we're using stainless steel, we're going to use the anti-seize that came with it. I just put a little bit on the base of the threads, smear it in just a smidge. Let's install the top bracket now. Put the bolts with the washers through. Don't forget your vehicle-specific spacer. It does have a smooth side and a rough side, so just put the rough side out and the smooth side towards the vehicle. Line up our holes and get our bolts started. And again, you should prefer hand tools for this. We don't want to over-tighten, but we do want it snug so that when we remove the bolts from the bottom hinge, that the top hinge is still holding the door in proper alignment. Same thing, so first we need to break these bolts loose, then take them off. There's nothing that sounds better than rain on the metal roof of my shop, but it is not the best for recording video, but that's okay. Here we go. Now we're going to work on the bottom bracket. We have the bottom bracket piece, we have the spacer, remember smooth side towards the hinge, and we have our 2 bolts. And remember to use your silver anti-seize. And again, tighten with a hand tool. May need to loosen the top up just a hair. So you want this bracket to have just a little bit of play. So we've loosened that just a smidge, and then we'll finish hand tightening these. Now we attach the top bracket to the bottom bracket, the 3/16 Allen head, and that is a 1/2 inch nut on the bottom. So we'll just get that snugged up. Perfect. Now the last step again is to fully tighten these down. There we go, door hinge to hinge bolts, 19 foot-pounds. Don't ask. So we're going to go 19 pounds on these. It's not going to be much. And as you can see what just happened right there, even just a hair over 19 pounds of pressure, once it clicked, these Allen heads are really soft and it'll start to strip it out. So it helps prevent you from over torquing them, but you may end up with a bolt that you can't get out later. So this is why we're using the torque wrench with the proper torque spec of 19 pounds. Just for proof, this is a 5mm socket. I did not use an SAE on a metric bolt. This hinge step is installed. It's ready to use. It is amazing. It is sturdy, it is going to hold your weight, it rocks the entire vehicle. This is an amazing product. I love these. So all we have left to do is repeat this process on the back door and we're done. And just look what that does even for the profile of your Jeep. These steps are awesome. They're functional, they look great. Metalcloak has hit it out of the park again. Obviously, they're not the first manufacturer to come up with this idea of making hinge steps, but they are the best. When they bought Kargo Master Safari, they could have just kept selling that same original design, which worked fine and it's nice. These not only look better, but the 2-piece design prevents any door alignment issues. Just a perfect example of the thought that Metalcloak puts into the engineering of their products. So there you have it, folks. These are the Metalcloak Pro Steps. The only Jeep owner that I wouldn't recommend these for is someone who runs with the top off 100% of the time. You're not going to gain much functionality if you do that. But for the rest of us out here that have a rack, put things on it, have a rooftop tent, need to get your cover on, these are a must-have. Thanks for watching, and as always, please like and subscribe so that we can keep making great content for this channel.